This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we discuss all the news in the world of sports. My name is Ben.
Hey, and I'm Anthony.
Back here on a Wednesday. We are midway through the week. Well, after today, we'll be midway through the week. And we have a great weekend ahead of us. It is my birthday on Sunday. It is WrestleMania on Sunday. We have the Final Four on Saturday, the Women's Final Four on Friday. I mean, it's a great weekend. So we're kind of just like limping towards the finish line. I've kind of like, Super Bowl week, like, like every day is like nothing to talk about until like Friday when we have the official game. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of just like limping our way into there. And we're also limping our way into the NBA playoffs, which start on April 15th. So we've got a couple of weeks now until the playoffs start. And quite honestly, I mean, we're kind of getting into a little bit of a battle there, I guess you could say. I mean, the Celtics and the Cavs are definitely battling for the top seed in the East. The Spurs and Warriors, and tonight the Spurs and Warriors play, so we'll preview that a little later. But we're kind of just like limping our way into the NBA postseason, which I'm really excited about because I feel like there could be a lot of intriguing storylines. So I'm really looking forward to that, but that's not until April 15th. Last night was a big game, number 1 versus number 3 in the Western Conference, but James Harden's triple-double was not enough to get by the Warriors as the Warriors rolled to their 8th straight victory, 113-106. Steph Curry, 32 points, although he's still struggling from the three-point line. He shot 3 of 11. Klay Thompson also chipped in with 25. Draymond Green with 19, and then Andre Iguodala off the bench. Mentioned Harden had a triple-double, 24 points. He had 13 assists and 11 boards to go along with that, although he did have 6 turnovers. So the Rockets, Anthony, I felt like were the one team, well, I guess you could say besides the Spurs, but I feel like they were the one team that can maybe challenge Golden State a little bit because of just simply how much they score. Looking at the 3 matchups they've played this season, although the Warriors have won 2 out of the 3, the Rockets scored 106 last night, which was their lowest of the season. They scored 132 in the first game, 1 away in the second game, and 106 in the third game. Do you think the Rockets are a legitimate threat to the Warriors?
I mean, yeah, just because they're probably the most adept at basically mirroring what they do, right? Like, the Warriors are kind of in a weird spot right now. Like, they've won 8 in a row, but they're also winning these games now without Kevin Durant, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing because
I feel like that's a fantastic thing, not a bad thing at all.
But see, the thing is, like, once you get him back, you're going to have to reacclimate him back into the system, right? Like, they've already proven that they could win without him. They did win without him. Different players aside, different bench and role players aside, they did win a title without him and come within, a minute and a half of winning last year as well. So it's not like they don't know how to play without him. It's once they get him back, kind of recalibrating everything and basically trying to make the math work out so that way he's back in there and feeling comfortable and not feeling like he's taken away from Steph. Because Steph, while he's been out, 3 of 11 is not good or whatever, but he's shooting about 44% over the last 8 games where they're on an 8-game winning streak. Like, they're playing really well. With the Rockets, they're, like I said, they're kind of like the Spurs, or not like the Warriors, just not to that level because no one in the history of the NBA is Steph, and very few players are Klay Thompson. So they have someone like a James Harden, right, who in his own right is really good at threes. You have people like Ryan Anderson, Eric Gordon, people like that. But, with that being said, you kind of got to have them all at max capacity to beat this Warriors team because the Warriors team can't have a bad game and still pull out a victory, right? But the Rockets, they only lost by 7. You also had something where James Harden, he had a triple-double, 24, 13, and 11. He also went 5 of 20 from the field and 1 of 9 from 3. So, I mean, he wasn't good by any stretch last night. You got other people involved, but himself, you can't really, go 25% from the field and expect to win the game. So I think the Rockets have a good enough chance. I think they probably get to the Western Conference Finals to face.
You think they beat the Warriors? Spurs? Because, I mean, that'd be a 2-3 matchup, so they'd have to play. They have to go through the Spurs first.
Spurs, I don't know if the Spurs have enough to, like, do it in the playoffs, right? Like, Kawhi Leonard's the best defender in the league, like, perimeter defender, like, period. Like, he is amazing like that, and he can score 20, 25 points a game. But they don't have a lot of dudes that can score a lot. Like, I don't trust LaMarcus Aldridge at all to, like, score. And Patty Mills is fine as a point guard, but Parker's not what he used to be. Ginobili is 95 years old. He's not the same dude. And there's, like, nobody else on the team that's anywhere, like, I don't know. Like, the year they won the title in 14, I think it was, the last year of LeBron in Miami, when they were basically, like, moving the ball around, and Danny Green and Patty Mills and Boris Diaw and Parker, everybody else on the team was shooting threes left and right and just moving the ball around. That was kind of like the last of the really great Spurs teams, right? And Kawhi Leonard was still not locking LeBron James down, because you can't really lock LeBron down, but still doing the best he can at making LeBron James hate life.
I can't ever count out the Spurs because they're the Spurs. 19 years in a row, 50-plus wins.
Oh, yeah.
Greg Popovich, according to LeBron James, is the best coach ever. Like you mentioned, they do have probably the second best two-way player in the league in Kawhi Leonard. LaMarcus Aldridge, I feel like I can trust him a little bit. I mean, he's still a fantastic player, still an all-star. So I feel like I can still trust him. I think he'll definitely be that contributing piece.
Sure.
But I kind of agree with you on one point. They need to have that third guy. Like, there's no real consistency there. Maybe it can be between Parker and Mills and Ginobili and Green can chip in for like 20 points a game.
Right.
Then maybe. But, I mean, there needs to be some more balance there, because everyone was like, oh, my God, the Spurs are the one threat to the Warriors last season. What happened? The Thunder absolutely ran them off the floor. Mm-hmm. And the Thunder have two guys. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I feel like I'll trust the Spurs over the Rockets, barring any injuries, because the Rockets aren't going to play defense. The Spurs will play some. I mean,
sure.
The Rockets will win maybe a game or two because they're going to just shoot 20 million threes and probably make some. The three-point shot's the ultimate equalizer in the NBA.
Yeah.
So I feel like they'll probably win a couple of games because of that, but I'll still take the Spurs over the Rockets if they do match up. It's still left to be seen, because we're not sure exactly who the number one seed is going to be.
Right.
The Warriors currently have a 2.5-game lead over the Spurs, but there is still a really, really big matchup tonight in San Antonio between the Warriors and the Spurs. So I guess we'll look at that game a little bit now. So as I mentioned, the Rockets do lose last night. The Warriors pick up their 8th victory in a row, 113-106 over James Harden and the Rockets. So looking at tonight, you do have the Spurs hosting the 8th win in a row Golden State Warriors. I'm taking the Spurs tonight, Anthony. They haven't played since Monday when they ran Cleveland off the floor.
Right.
The Warriors are coming off of a back-to-back where they just played a tough Houston Rocket team. Now they're playing the Spurs. They got to win tonight. I mean, right? I mean, the Spurs are going to win tonight, right?
Assuming Popovich doesn't pull a Popovich and just basically say, like, you're sitting down, you're sitting down, you're sitting down, you're sitting down. I don't care about you, NBA TV. You can go to hell.
It's possible. Steve Kerr did say last night that he's not sitting anybody after the Rockets game for tonight,
right.
So he's going to have his full squad to go. And Popovich is that one guy that would maybe drop the bomb on us, like, this game's at 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern.
Right.
He would be that one guy like 4:30, like, okay, Kawhi's not playing, LaMarcus Aldridge is not playing, and I'm starting Patty Mills over Tony Parker.
Right.
You know what I mean? He would be that one guy to, like, do that. But you know what? I think, honestly, Popovich is chasing a number one seed this year.
Right.
I don't think he's going to rest anybody unless they're playing, like, the Nets or something, because you're looking at the matchups here. The Jazz are the 4th seed currently. The Jazz aren't a terrible team, but I'd much rather play the Jazz in the second round than the Rockets. So I think he's honestly chasing that, I guess you could say, number one seed, because right now it's a great opportunity. You don't have Kevin Durant there. The Warriors are playing fantastic as of late. They're on an 8-game winning streak, but it didn't really start out that way. So I think he's kind of chasing that, and I think he's going to go for the number one seed. Which is very un-Popovich-esque.
Yeah, Popovich has always seemed like the kind of guy that was just always, if I get the number one seed, I get the number one seed. That's great, but I'm more about just basically kind of lining everything up for when the playoffs come, because I think it was either last year or the year before, like, they basically had a chance to get a higher seed in the last game of the season, but he either rested some guys or they didn't win the last game of the season, so they basically got a lower seed, and because of that lower seed, they had a bad matchup and lost in the playoffs. It was something where had they just gone a little bit more all out or something like that, they could have had a better seed and gotten a better, matchup in the first or second round. The thing with Popovich is, I think he just looks at everything kind of as like a day-to-day thing. I don't think he looks necessarily like, oh, we can be the 1 seed, because he's like, dude, I got 5 rings. It's fine. If we're the 1 seed, if we're the 2 seed, it's fine. And he's probably looking at the Spurs, how they are and how the Warriors are and how the Rockets are. He's like, all right, if this is how the Rockets are going to be, I can beat them. If this is how the Warriors are right now currently, I can beat them. Even if Durant comes back, maybe that's going to be a little hairy. I can probably beat them. I think he just thinks it doesn't matter where I'm at, Game 6, Game 7, wherever that's going to be, I can beat this team. I don't think he necessarily worries that much about it. And he just kind of looks over at the team. He's just like, all right, Kawhi, you're a little banged up. You're sitting down. You're going to get healthy for the playoffs. Aldridge, all right, you seem good. You're going to play. And then he kind of goes down the team. I don't think he necessarily worries as much about the 1 seed.
I don't think he does either, but I think this season's a little different. And the Spurs have definitely shown they can win on the road. They have the best road record in the league at 28-9.
Right.
So I don't think he necessarily cares too much, but I feel like I'd much rather take on the Jazz than the Rockets, because the Rockets are so scary because they're going to score so much. They're averaging 115 points a game. Although they're giving up 109, they're still going to score like crazy. And Harden or Gordon Hayward, who would you much rather face off against? You know what I mean? So I feel like this season it's primed. It's up for the taking because Durant's not there for probably the rest of the regular season. Maybe he'll play a couple of games to kind of get up to speed a little bit and play 15, 20 minutes, but it's not going to be fully healthy KD.
Sure.
So I feel like this is now the time for him to do it, and I hope he does. I hope he goes for it, and I'd love to see competitive action. Tonight will be a good game. As long as nobody gets rested, I'll take the Spurs tonight because they are at home, coming off of a couple of days rest, and the Warriors definitely playing a back-to-back, which is really tough. So
the one thing...
see.
Yeah, the one thing I would say with the Spurs is, it is a back-to-back with the Warriors. The one thing, though, is it's back-to-back in Texas. It's Houston and then San Antonio, so it's not like they're going from Houston to, Minnesota or something like that. They're relatively close to each other as far as the two cities go. And also, you talk about, you'd rather face the Jazz than the Rockets. The one thing with the Spurs, one thing they've actually had for a handful of years now is they're really good at doing, about defending the three-pointer because they're third right now in the NBA. As far as 34% is what they give up percentage-wise from the three. Golden State's number one at basically 32.5%, and Boston's 33%. They're really good at defending the three, so that's basically all the Rockets do. They get layups and three-pointers. That's what they do. And at least for this year, they've done a really good job at it. Now, if you're facing a team that's all they do, maybe your percentage is a little bit worse when it comes to that, but at least the Spurs have... I always forget that Pau Gasol's on the Spurs. I just saw him on TV.
Yeah.
I forget he exists
really
on the
good
Spurs.
Season, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess they have him too. But still, they can defend the three pretty well. So I think they have at least enough of an answer with that to face the Rockets. And then you just got to hope that they don't just basically lose their mind for 4 out of the 7 games.
Exactly. But I'm much rather take them on than the Jazz. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting and fun the last couple of weeks, especially on the Eastern Conference side. I feel like the Eastern Conference this season kind of top heavy, so that those top 4 seeds, once the Raptors get Kyle Lowry back, will be really fun to watch in the postseason. So, and seeing as how the Cavs have been really, really struggling lately, so
bad.
Ought to be fun to watch. But we'll have to wait for a couple of weeks. We'll take our first break on the show. After the break, we're going to talk about some NFL news, owner meeting, a lot of rules coming out. The Patriots are taking a certain running back off of their draft board, and the Vegas Raiders might be a great business move. But is it going to be a good move for some certain young players who might be entering the league? We'll talk about that after the break at the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Back in here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, the NFL making some rule changes, kind of basically some small ones. I mean, basically like ejections for really, really bad hits and penalties right away, which is good, kind of like the college game's already doing. You have overtime getting shortened to 10 minutes, which is kind of good and bad. Limiting snaps so you have lower injury possibilities, but also that could lead to more draws, which I'm a soccer fan, so I'm okay with draws. I understand them. But in the NFL, I've never really been a big fan of draws. I love how they do the college game with overtime. More exciting, more points, more fantasy points if we're going to do it in the NFL. But that would never really work out. But So I would love that, but they're kind of shortening it just to sort of make it less injury possibilities. But they also will maybe lead to more draws, which we saw a couple of them last year. So hey, who knows? And then we have the whole celebration fiasco, which is just really, really stupid and silly to me. But it is what it is. So a couple of news coming out of the NFL is the New England Patriots definitely are not afraid to take on guys who – this is why this surprised me, this story. They're not afraid to take on guys who have had some concerns off the field. I mean, they brought in Michael Floyd with his multiple DUIs. You had Martellus Bennett, who is definitely not afraid to say literally anything that comes – to his mind. He and his brother Michael Bennett are not afraid to say anything. So you already have brought on a couple of guys who are definitely not afraid to say what's on their mind. But one guy supposedly they are not going to be bringing on no matter what is running back Joe Mixon from Oklahoma coming in to the NFL draft. Of course, Mixon, we all know about his off-the-field issue, the domestic violence case in 2014, that very, very bad video. But the New England Patriots, they totally have scratched him off of the board because of that incident, supposedly. A lot of people, like Mel Kiper Jr., feel that Mixon is the most talented running back in the draft, but because of his off-the-field incidents, he's probably not going to go nearly as high as he should. I mean, top running back in the draft, that would entail a top 5 pick because you're looking at guys like Fournette, who will probably be top 10. So if that were the case, you're looking at a guy pretty early, but maybe project to go second or third round, depending on how teams sort of reach for him as far as value is concerned. I feel like he's really talented. I would not be afraid to sign him. This happened 3 years ago now. Seemed like he kind of moved on, had a good season last year at Oklahoma. So are you surprised by this?
That they don't want Joe Mixon?
They are taking him off the board because the Patriots have been that team, along with teams like maybe Dallas and the Oakland Raiders, not afraid to take on guys with some troublesome issues.
Right. Well, the thing is, like you talked about, he might be the best running back in the draft. Okay, but the Patriots also are the king of the, what was that scene in Billy Madison? Not Billy Madison. Big Daddy, where they like throw the cans on the ground and they say like stock price went down 10% or whatever, so you just get like the discount because it's a little bit banged up. Like the Patriots are the best at that, at basically taking someone who's just like a little bit not at the top of their game. They're just like a little bit damaged. Gronkowski had a little bit of back problems at Arizona. You had stuff where you take your running back here like a Danny Amendola. You took Wes Welker from Miami. You take these guys who you can see the talent that they have, but they're not like the top of the top of the top. Like outside of Randy Moss, and even when they got Randy Moss, he was coming out of Oakland when he was basically not the same guy. Like, name me a time where the Patriots had a guy who was the best in the league at anything outside of Tom Brady. Like, you've always kind of had the Deion Branches. You've had even Corey Dillon, when they had him, he was like in the last legs of his career. So not wanting Joe Mixon, like, totally understand it from that aspect, because they're like, look, yeah, you might be great, but we can take McCaffrey, the same thing, and he can do a couple more things, and he's not going to be as much of a headache because, yeah, you can also say, okay, they've taken Martellus Bennett, and yeah, they've taken Ocho Cinco, and yeah, they've taken all these guys.
LeGarrette Blount, I was just thinking about him with the
Blount.
weed and punching the Boise State guys, member of Oregon. So
right, but there's also one guy that we have not mentioned, who they did have, which is still kind of a stain on their organization, and he is currently in prison.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Hernandez.
That guy. That guy.
That's why I was so surprised.
Okay, but do you want to be known?
Did say they have a zero-tolerance policy with domestic violence, and I'm sure that's really what it stems down to.
But you also want to be known for the team that had Vito Corleone and the guy that beats women. Like, you don't want to have both of those things. I guess one thing where you have
you're also known for the greatest quarterback of all time and possibly the greatest coach of all time.
Sure. And they can just get a running back because LeGarrette Blount was by no means the best running back in the league. Like, yeah, he had a bunch of rushing touchdowns, but he only had a little over 1,000 yards rushing, so it wasn't like he was setting the world on fire.
He set my fantasy team on fire.
Fantasy-wise, yes. Credit for that. Yes, fantasy-wise, he was like 18 touchdowns, something like that.
Titles.
100%. Fantastic as far as that goes, but they can take a running back in free agency. They can take a running back at the top of the first round, or the second round or something like that, trade up in the second round. They can do these things where they can kind of like mess around and all of a sudden they now have a running back who they can trust. That part's not going to be hard. As far as Mixon goes, like, they're not the team that's going to do it. Can they be a team that kind of like insulates them and kind of like shuts out the noise? Fine. Yeah, they probably can do that. But at the same time, it's not worth it to them because you can also just find all these other guys that can do the same sort of thing, right? You can find a lot of other people that will do the same job at around the same, because you said it's not like he's going to be like a top 5 pick where it's just like, no, we have to have him, da-da-da-da. He's going to be a late first round, early second round pick because of all the baggage, and at that point, you can find a different running back for them to do all these other things. McCaffrey, if Fournette, for whatever reason, has like a really, really bad scandal and falls kind of like Laramie Tunsil last year, like, you can find different guys for the Patriots, and I think that's why they're kind of just like, yeah, like, we're not having him mixed with everything else we've had in our past.
Yeah, the Patriots won't have a pick, well, not scheduled to have a pick until the early third round with number 72. Because they traded away their first rounder to get Brandon Cooks from the Saints, traded away their second rounder with the Panthers to get Coney Ealy. So unless they do some sort of trade, they're not going to have a draft pick. Anyway, Mixon projected by most people to go at least by the end of the second round, if not really, really early in the third round, because teams are definitely going to be hesitant because of the issue, but they're going to look at the talent and say, hey, why not? Like, let's take a risk. Like, the Cowboys last year took Jalen Smith in the second round, and he didn't even play this whole entire year because of the knee injury. Teams are like, oh, he'll probably go in the fourth round. They're like, you know what, screw it, second round. Like, the same thing's going to happen with Mixon in my eyes. So I'd say second round.
Yeah, well, no, I would think what would probably happen with Mixon is, it's probably not going to get taken the first round, or maybe very late first round, the best case scenario, but since the first round's one day and the second round's another day, that means after the first round's over with, and if you haven't selected Mixon yet, you give teams a full day to basically look at each other and be like, why didn't we take him?
We have a pick and 3 picks. Let's just pull the trigger unless something happens.
Yeah, like, so he's going to be like, yeah, look, I understand what he did. I understand that's bad. I understand we're going to have to basically PR the hell out of the situation. I get that. That's fine. Also, look at how good he is. Like, I'll deal with all that stuff like that. Like, do you see how good our team is? And if we add him, like, you're going to give a team hours and hours and hours to basically, like, look at it in the face and be like, why do we not take this guy? Like, I think at that point he gets taken high in the second round just because you give teams basically all that time to basically think about what they didn't take, and some team's going to try and trade up for him probably.
Right, and all Mixon's really missing out on is money here, because first rounder or second or third, he's still going to get his chance to play right away. It's not like he's going to have to ride the pine pony behind, like, the best running back in the league, like Ezekiel Elliott or something. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be given a chance to play right away. So all he's really missing out on is some money. So we'll have to wait and see. The draft is April 28th. Definitely excited for that end of the month. About a month, actually a month from now. It's one day less than a month. But anyways, real quick before we end the break, one more thing. We'll talk about the NFL. We have the Las Vegas Raiders now, or at least we will in 2019, presumably, because the NFL owners voted 31-1. I was like, Miami. And I were talking about it. Like, I was like, oh, they need 24. I'm gonna see they get like 26, 27. Like, only the Dolphins are like, nah, I don't think we want to have this move go on.
Funniest part is just kind of look back at this when teams would move, because generally it's either you're not going to get the votes or you're basically going to get all the votes. The funny part of it is the Raiders moving. Whenever they would have like votes before, when Al Davis was still alive, he would abstain a lot. He wouldn't even vote. He would just be like, I'm not doing this. Like, he would totally just like get out of the conversation and be like, I'm not voting yes or no. You guys can go to hell. I'm not doing this. And then they moved. I don't know why exactly the Dolphins did it. Why Ross was the guy that decided not to allow it.
Maybe he just wanted to be like that one.
He wanted to be that guy?
That one guy who said no.
And this is kind of in the Raiders' tradition of basically like keep taking the team out of Oakland. You went from Oakland to LA, then to Oakland, now to Las Vegas. And I don't know how this is going to go, man, when they go to Las Vegas.
That's where we're kind of leaning towards, because Brandon Marshall, now of the Giants, came out and said when they finally move there, they're going to need to have a strong leadership, veteran-led organization as far as the players are concerned. Because you're getting some of these young kids, and I'm going to throw in just an example, maybe like an Ezekiel Elliott, who's had his fair share now of off-the-field incidents.
He does dumb stuff sometimes.
Or maybe like a Gronkowski. You're going to have these young guys coming into the league, and they're going to get drafted at 21, 22 years old as millionaires in Las Vegas. Definitely tough, scary situations. I mean, Goodell was asked about this yesterday, and he's like, well, 21 and 22-year-old kids can get in trouble really anywhere. It's not just the whole Vegas thing. So he's kind of like throwing it to the side. But there's definitely a lot of stuff that could go wrong in Vegas. I mean, partying literally every night. There's a phrase, what happens there stays there. It's there for a reason, because a lot of, I'll say, sketchy stuff goes on behind the scenes. So it's a great place and all, but there's a lot of trouble you can get in there as well. So would you have an issue? Do you think this is going to be fine? Or are you kind of worried?
So I've always been under the impression that there are basically 5 cities in the United States that, even though they are part of the United States, they're basically a different country. That is Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Manhattan, Miami, and New Orleans. And basically all 5 of those cities now have a football team. Manhattan, maybe not technically, but whatever, but it's still...
Got a couple of New Yorks. It's close.
Right. But all 5 of them, for different reasons, are basically another city. Los Angeles, Hollywood, basically, has the stars everywhere, paparazzi, TMZ, everything else like that. New Orleans has Mardi Gras. Miami has Miami. Manhattan.
They have Cuba.
They have Cuba and cocaine and all that stuff. Manhattan is basically like a city with everything that you could ever possibly think of. And Vegas gambles all the time. Literally, you walk into a 24-hour, like, 7-Eleven slot machine. You walk into just some random, like, pancake place, slot machine. Like, they have it everywhere. So you put them there, and you basically tell people, okay, don't do dumb stuff in Vegas. I don't know if you've ever, like, looked at what happened when the NBA decided to put the All-Star game in Vegas. Woo! No. That did not go the way they planned. It has not been there since, and they will not go there anytime soon, because the NBA is so afraid to bring it back to Vegas, even for a limited amount of time.
I'm kind of on the fence here, because you can get into trouble really anywhere.
It's fine.
And in the off season, you can kind of go anywhere. So it's not like, oh my God, like I'm in Vegas and Vegas only, I'll get in trouble. Like Johnny Manziel had a ball of a time in Vegas, and he lived in Cleveland.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can get in trouble really anywhere. I do agree on that regard.
I would be,
but I'm kind of with you a little bit. I'd be a little hesitant. Like, you kind of have to have a strong leadership, because you give these kids who may or may not have come from really, really poor and unrich circumstances growing up, kind of struck it rich, became really, really good at something, which is playing football, and now are the next big thing with millions of dollars in their pocket. And it's like you said, I turn around and there's a chance to win or lose money, or go to things like clubs where people don't wear clothes, and go to shows where people don't wear clothes.
Hold on. What did you just say? Clubs where people don't wear clothes? Strip clubs.
Yeah, but
why did you go all the way around it?
I don't want to just go and make it clear. And not necessarily clubs either. Like, I read one story a couple of days ago that there's going to be a Raiders themed brothel where they're going to have a VIP section for the players. Like, wait, what?
Here's the thing.
Come on in, Derek Carr. Right. Your VIP. Here's the line for you. Like, that does not bode well.
Here's the thing. I don't care so much about the people that play for the Raiders, because they're going to be there the whole year, right? They're going to have 8 games that are there anyways. That's fine. It's the people that come in like once a year. Like I said, it's Ezekiel Elliott's coming out of Dallas. It's the Drew Brees coming out of New Orleans. It's the people coming out of Miami. People that go there like once a year, that are basically like, oh, we get to go to Vegas, and they're just going to do some dumb stuff because Vegas. That's how that goes. It's people that are there the whole time, the 8 games a year, where they're kind of like, used to it because you hear people that live in Vegas anyways. They don't even live near the Strip. They kind of live off in the distance, and they basically hate all that Vegas is because that's all they hear about is people just getting blasted out of their minds. It's like, Vegas! They hate the city. So they're going to get used to it. They're going to get whatever. It's people that are coming in from Seattle or Green Bay or the Giants or whatever who just basically have that one time. Gronkowski. He's just going to get all types of ball of he's going to get so sideways there, man. Oh, my God. And, like, they got to figure out a way to curb that because, yeah, you can get in trouble anywhere, but it's a different thing when you basically, like, put them in the middle of Sin City and say, like, okay, don't do dumb stuff, and then just kind of walk away.
We'll see. It's a couple years from now, but I'm kind of with Brandon Marshall in one instance, and I'm kind of like with Goodell. Like, you can get in trouble anywhere, but you maybe need to, like, little bit rein in these players because there's definitely opportunities to screw up.
Well, yeah, but you can drink at any time in your life, but if you're given basically tequila, in the house at 16, like, you also might do it then. Like, you could drink whenever you want to, but if you're given the opportunity, like, right there in front of you, those are different things.
We'll see. It is a couple of years. The Raiders, I feel really bad for Oakland because it's almost like...
Well, they get 2 years where they're just kind of like in limbo and the fans are just
like... It's kind of like I'm divorced and I have to live with my ex for a couple of years. Like, that's like the perfect analogy, and it kind of sucks. But we'll see. Maybe they can win a ring for them going out of Oakland. But anyways... We'll take our last break. Coming up next, we're talking about Harry Giles from Duke going to the NBA draft, as well as Lonzo Ball, who is already declared, literally like 5 minutes after they lost to Kentucky on Friday, declared for the draft. He says he's better than Markelle Fultz. Do I believe him? Does Anthony believe him? We'll debate that next on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
This is the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Harry Giles from Duke has become the next player to declare for the NBA draft. The freshman didn't really do too much, only averaged about 4 points, 4 rebounds a game. He's got a lot of injury concerns with him. Missed a couple of years in high school with ACL injuries. Missed 11 games this year for Duke with a knee injury. So, I mean, this is really the time for him to declare for the draft because if he screws up his leg one more time, quite honestly, he's probably done. So, he's got to get something out of it. He was the number one player coming out of high school. Definitely really, really talented at 6'10", but it's just those really big injury issues. So, as far as where Giles might go this summer, looking at maybe mid to late first round. And, I mean, to get a player as talented as Harry Giles is that late in the draft is, quite honestly, really, really good. But, like I said, one more knee injury, and he's probably done. So that's a big, big risk there. But Harry Giles, next guy to declare for the draft. Talking a little bit more about the NBA draft, Lonzo Ball, not LeVar Ball, but Lonzo Ball actually said something for once. He said that there's no doubt in his mind that he's the number one pick. He's talking about Markelle Fultz from Washington, who's going to be either the number one or number two pick. These two guys are definitely going top two, that's for sure. He said, Markelle's a great player, but I feel like I'm simply better than them. I think I can lead a team better, and he's a great scorer, but I'm a great scorer and player in general, and I'm just a better leader. Do you agree with him?
I think it kind of proved out or whatever that he's, as far as like something that helps the team out, he's maybe a little bit better. I mean, you could talk about maybe Leaf on the team is also really good for UCLA, but he was the guy that basically united everybody and got him to the championship or to the March Madness. They got knocked out a little bit earlier than people might have liked, but he still was somebody that was, an all-around, as a freshman, basically getting you somewhere around like 15 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, basically kind of doing everything for the team. Markelle Fultz is really good, don't get me wrong, can score in bunches, but he's also was on a team that was like 9-20 or something like that. Like
Washington was 9-22 and 2-16 in the Pac-12.
Right. So, which I don't know how fair that actually is to yell at Markelle Fultz about, because that was kind of what I thought.
It was a one-man team.
It was also what happened. Honestly. It was also what happened last year in LSU with Ben Simmons, right? Like, you can have a really good player, but that doesn't mean necessarily they're going to be a great team around him, right? Like, as good as Kevin Durant was, and he did make the tournament, he got bounced pretty early when he was in Texas, and we see how good Kevin Durant is now. Steph Curry was everything at Davidson, but he also wasn't going up against great competition every single night. He was able to get Davidson into the tournament, and then from there, he had that one season where he just lost his mind and kept shooting threes. Like, you can have a one-man team do well, but doesn't mean just because you're a better player, team's going to be better, right? Like, and we're doing all this stuff with freshman players, right? Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, Joshua Jackson over in Kansas. Like, all these guys are basically kind of given 1 year to basically play and see how they do, because that's all you're going to get. You're going to get 1 year because the league basically mandates you have to stay for a year.
Quite honestly, dude.
Oh, it's stupid.
I'm sorry. I just started coughing. But I hate this rule.
No, it's stupid.
For me, I'd say let them go out of high school or make them stay 2 years.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, you're like, oh my God, okay, everyone's going to the NBA then from high school. Like, not exactly. I mean, not everybody is ready right away. Remember, Carmelo Anthony went to college for a year. He came out the same year as LeBron James. So it's not like, Dwayne Wade was in college or Marquette. Chris Bosh went to Georgia Tech for a couple years. It's not like they're ready right away. So it's not like everyone's going to go out right away. There will be some, don't get me wrong. There'll be a handful of guys that go out of high school right away. But make them stay 2 years if they don't go. That way you at least have a couple of years to have some same teammates and players around in the NCAA tournament. It seems like with Kentucky, you're just picking their names out of a hat as far as who's going to be there year in and year out because you simply don't know.
Right.
Unless you follow like high school basketball really, really tough, which I like it. I follow it pretty closely, but a lot of people don't. So, you're literally picking names out of your head like, oh, okay, this guy's at Kentucky now. Like, who's that? Like, I don't even know. I just watch him in the tournament, like De'Aaron Fox and Exploder. No, he's a lottery pick now. Like, you never know. So, but go on. I just hate that rule.
Yeah, no, like, I totally get you because, like, take something, like you say, like, oh, well, we're going to let this happen. Oh, everybody's going to go, like, we're going to have, like, 25 people come out of college. Okay. And why exactly is that a bad thing? Like, I've never understood the argument of, like, well, it's a bad thing. Okay, why? Like, you want them to stay in college for a year or two. Why? Because you want them to get their education. They're not going to get that in a year. Also, they're not there for a full year. They're there for a semester. If that, all they got to do is make sure their grades are up to par for a little bit of time. And then, by Felicia, they're out. Even in something like the NBA draft from back in 2001, like, you had 3 people go in the top 8. And yeah, those people didn't exactly pan out. You had Eddie Curry, and you also had DeJounte Schaap come out of high school. You also had Tyson Chandler. Like, you have these situations where you can have people come out of high school and they'll be good. Yeah, you got LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Garnett, and all them, and some of them are bad. But, you also have the GMs who, some of them are really good at what they do, some of them are not, who kind of look at the people and it's like, okay, yeah, you're not ready and your talent isn't high enough for me not to take somebody else that's coming out of college, right? Like, you can still look at it. And if you were to say starting next year, right? Okay, 2 years. Like you said, the straight out of high school or 2 years. And you look at somebody, like, let's say we implemented it and they said, okay, Markelle Fultz, Lonzo Ball, Josh Jackson, all you guys have to stay 2 years. Like, would you want to take the dude coming out of high school more than Lonzo or Fultz? Like, you probably still want to take them pretty high because it's not a guarantee that guy's going to be number 1 overall. Like, yeah, LeBron was, but LeBron was basically like the golden child ever since he was like 12 years old. So, going back to...
Well, rightfully do so, but...
Right.
Imagine LeBron 1 year in college. Oh, my God.
Well, LeBron James is kind of like the freakiest athlete I've ever seen in my life because he was a child star since 15. He lived up to basically all the hype we gave him. Fine, maybe he's not Michael Jordan, but that hype was unrealistic to begin with. But that being said, he came pretty close to it. He's basically lived up to everything, and he hasn't had a scandal, which basically happens to everybody when they're a child star. Like, he hasn't had his, like,
He has, the only thing has been the decision, and that wasn't...
And even that
it wasn't good, but it wasn't terrible.
And even that gave money to charity,
Right, so, like,
he hasn't had... Like, yeah, like, not 5, not 6, not 7. Fine, they don't say that, but he was also, like, 26 years old, 27, whatever at the time. Fine, you're going to say dumb stuff, and you probably shouldn't have said that, but we've said a lot of dumb stuff in our lives that would not... like being
Nobody's
on TV.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, but my thing is, if you were to implement this, that doesn't mean people are going to come straight out of high school, be the number 1 pick. Like, you saw it have people in college that are like, oh, I like them better, I'm taking them. As far as Lonzo Ball goes, I'm going to say LeVar Ball because, he's kind of, they're kind of going hand in hand.
He's only going to declare next year.
Dude,
that's probably coming next. There's nothing that this guy can't do. Jets rookie camp, he was all over the place, but... I don't know.
I'm really into Lonzo Ball. I think he's going to be really good. I think he has a chance to be an all-around player, right? You know, maybe Markelle Fultz is more along the lines of like a Damian Lillard where he can score a lot. But, you know, Ball is one of those people who, like, just seems like he can transform an organization, right? Like, he can be the guy that's just like, okay, cool, we got our point guard. Now, given there are a lot of point guards in the NBA that are good, but he can, like, in the next couple of years, be, like, one of the best point guards in the league. And then from there, you basically just, like, surround him with a handful of shooters, a handful of people who can, you know, do a couple things down low, and all of a sudden now you got your team pretty stacked. Like, I think he's the better prospect as far as like transforming your team more. And you kind of saw that in college. I don't know. I just like Ball a little bit more than Fultz or Jackson or anybody else.
I'm with you, buddy. I think you kind of hit the nail right on the head. Markelle Fultz, the team sucked. They were 9-22. He had to do everything. He averaged 23, about 6 boards, 6 assists. He kind of had to do everything. There's no one else there. With Lonzo Ball, he was kind of the head of the snake because they had UCLA this season where a Sweet 16 team. TJ Leaf's going to be a lottery pick. Bryce Alford could shoot the lights out. Isaac Hamilton's a good player. Even Aaron Holiday off the bench, one of the best backup point guards in college basketball this season. It was a good team, and he was kind of the leader of the snake there. He was the guy that set everything up, made everyone around him better.
Yeah.
That's what I see Ball kind of doing more in the NBA. I see him being maybe like a triple-double machine at times because even in college, he's looking at about 8 assists, 15 points, and about 6 boards. He's going to play a lot more in the NBA and have really the keys to the car like he didn't have at UCLA because it's college. I mean, this floor is a lot smaller. Everyone plays a lot more tough defense and everything, so it's going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
I think Fultz will shoot the lights out and score a lot of points, but as far as like making everyone around him better, I think that's what Lonzo's going to do, and that's why I would take him number 1 as well.
And you talk about, you know, he got exposed against Kentucky. Okay, fine.
Well, De'Aaron Fox is going to be a lottery pick, so I mean, that's like saying, oh, Damian Lillard got crossed up by Isaiah Thomas. Like, well, yeah, they're both great players. I mean, it's not like De'Aaron Fox is like a unknown player. He's going to be a top 10 pick.
And that also doesn't allow for growth, right? Like Isaiah Thomas, one of the best scorers in the league, and someone who is an MVP candidate, is probably like 5th or 6th in the running, but still, he's a candidate at least for it, went last in the draft. And
literally number 60.
Yeah, and made it to the tournament, had a buzzer beater in one of his games, did really well while he was in college, but also there were a lot of question marks with him, like a lot.
Like how tall he is?
Like how tall he is. And he's become one of the best players in the league just because he didn't have a good game against this guy or that guy, or, oh, he didn't have a good stretch. Okay, you still, like, had him on your board high in the middle of the year for a reason, right? Like, it's always one of those things that just like, okay, well, why did he drop? Well, he had a couple bad games. Yeah, people have bad games. That happens. Like, just because you had a few bad games against good competition doesn't mean you're bad. That just means you had a bad game, and you can also just get better with practice. When you're in the NBA, yeah, you're going up against the best in the league, but also you are one of the best in the league, and going against those good players makes you better. Like, you can keep growing. It's not just going to be like, okay, this is what he is, and then that's it.
And quite honestly, I'm not going to go as far as like his dad is going, but I kind of like how he's kind of confident in himself. He's not really stretching it like his dad does. But like, yeah, I think I'm better than him.
No one can stretch it like his dad does.
You know what I mean? Like, he's not like putting it over the top. He's like, I think I'm better than him, and here's why. Not that he can't do anything. It's because I think I can do this, and he can't. So it's not like he's making some like out of this world statement like LeVar Ball does.
Right.
And also, I kind of love how he deals with adversity. Look at everything his dad has been saying about him and his brothers the last couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
He's better than Steph Curry. He's Magic Johnson with a jump shot. He's putting all this aside and still balling out, no pun intended, at UCLA and in the NCAA tournament. Like, he's dealing with distractions so well.
Oh, yeah.
In the NBA, that's only going to benefit him. So I'm with him. I think the kid's going to be a stud, and I love him.
All this said, I don't think Fultz is going to be a bad player. I think he's going to be good, too.
This is one of the best draft classes in recent memory, and I realize that's all on paper. It's left to be seen how it'll play out.
Sure.
But if you're going to put that and have him be at worst 2, that'd be pretty good.
Right. And that being said, like Joshua Jackson, Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, De'Aaron Fox, Jason Tatum, odds are, at least one of those guys is going to be a bust because that's generally how it works out. The top 5 picks,
I mean,
they're not all.
Darko Milicic?
Right. Darko was second in that draft, middle of LeBron, Carmelo, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. Right. Like one of those are going to be a bad pick, right? Not saying he's going to be a bad player. Just for that high of a pick, it's not worth what you did there. Odds are that's going to happen for one of these 5 players. I just don't think Ball's going to be that guy just because of everything he can do that'll kind of balance it out and say like, oh, well, he's not a good shooter. Cool. He's also a really good passer and a good rebounder. Oh, well, he can't, rebound anymore. Fine. Still a good passer and he can score. Like maybe one of those things goes away, but he's still got 3 of them.
Right. I think it'll all be there. Hopefully he goes to the right team, the right system where he can really develop as an NBA player and become a stud. All right, that's going to end the show for today, guys. Another great episode here at the GSMC Sports Podcast. My name is Ben.
Hey, I'm Anthony.
Anthony will be back in the studio tomorrow with Pauline to talk all things sports, probably talk a little bit about the Warriors Spurs game from tonight, as well as any other big news that comes up. I mean, we're getting really close to a lot of things. We got baseball starting on Sunday, which is going to be fantastic, and we are really gearing up for the rest. NBA postseason, we have the draft coming up in the NFL, a lot of great stuff going here in sports. So that's going to be it. I'd like to thank you again for listening. We'll be back in tomorrow. Have a good day, and we'll see you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.